Welcome to M&G Agency Life, your regular dose of creativity, insights, and all things Mearns and Gill.
Join us on this whirlwind journey through the world of marketing, design, and digital.
We'll also talk brand, events, media, and lots more.
Like what happens behind the scenes?
Yeah, and the latest industry trends. We've got you covered.
So get ready to dive into the world of agency.
Right, shall we do this?
Oh, heck yes. Welcome to episode 4 of M&G Agency Life.
Last week, we explored brand with Cam and Poppy, and today we'll be delving into design. Did you like that alliteration, by the way?
Very good, very good. Let's have some introductions. So we've got Mairi, who is the creative lead, and we've also got Graeme, who is a designer here at Mearns & Gill.
Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Thank you very much for coming along. How are you both?
Good, thanks.
Pretty good.
Yeah?
It's a good Monday.
Are you happy to be dragged away from your desk to come and do the podcast today?
Always happy to be dragged away from my desk.
Right, okay. Well, let's get into it then. So today we're going to talk about design. We went through brand and that whole process, but design, I think we're getting a little bit more into some of the specifics. So how are we going to do this? There's two of you. Let's go with Mairi first of all.
God. Right.
And it is Mairi, not Mary.
It's definitely not Mairi, Pete.
Can we talk about your accent for a start? Mm-hmm. Where's that lovely accent from?
It's from the Western Isles.
Love it.
Isle of Lewis, yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What inspired you to pursue a career in design? And tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I always loved art. I was always drawing. My dad was, he worked in an estate, but part-time. He did plans for people and he loved painting. So it was always there. It was always around. And I never really heard of graphic design until I watched a program when I was about 13.
Okay.
And I really loved helping my dad with his plans, like when he was making up the plans, but also with the art side of things. And then when this program came on and explained what graphic design was, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. Just that love of creativity and art, but just like the precision of it as well. And then as soon as I knew that was something, I was like,
so you realised that was a thing and you can combine something you love with a job.
Mm-hmm. I know, that was like, I just couldn't believe that something so perfectly fit for me was out there and I could do it. So as soon as I realised that, I just was like head down, study. While all my friends were doing other things, not study. All that sort of or like fun stuff. But I definitely knew that was the one thing I wanted to do. So
good.
Okay. And Graeme?
I came into graphic design through architecture. So I started studying architecture.
Okay.
And I was always interested in design because my grandpa was a CDT teacher. So he was always into technical drawing. So he was like teaching me how to draw and stuff. So I came into it through that way. So I'd never studied art, actually. I've only ever done like design subjects.
Right.
You forgot to tell us that at the interview, didn't you?
Your CV.
Yeah, we should say Graeme's on a podcast with his boss right now. This could be very interesting.
I did go to art school though. So.
There you go.
Is he off the hook?
We'll see.
So, let's get into design then. Why do you two think that a good design is important?
I think it gives a brand an opportunity to create a really good first impression, which, might have been mentioned last week.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy album art. So that's something where I feel like you can attract someone's attention with design. It's like, if you think about the Joy Division cover, like Unknown Pleasures, that like, as soon as you see that, you're like, I'm interested.
And people say don't judge a book by its cover, but we all do, don't we?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mairi, any thoughts on that? What makes good design in your eyes?
Yeah, I think exactly what Graeme just said. It's so important if you're putting yourself out there that what you're putting out is right for you. You're speaking to your audience, like you're engaging, you're creating some sort of connection with who you're talking about. And that could be either brand or that could be, if you're making a campaign or selling something or just brand awareness, that type of idea. Yeah, it's really important to make sure that what you're putting out is right and proper.
Okay. You never want to see anything that I draw, by the way. Rubbish.
Stickman. Yeah, that's as far as it goes.
Stickmen have got their place.
They do, right? I guess we've established design is very important. That's why we're here. That's a massive part of what we do here at Mearns and Gill. Let's talk about the brief, because that whole brief taking piece is very important. So I guess for you guys working at your desk, you get a brief from one of our account managers. What makes a good brief? Is there anything that you really want to see in a brief, or is there, what's your thoughts on the whole briefing part of the job?
Well, we're quite lucky in that pretty much every new client that we have, we go and do a workshop with them, and the studio are always represented within these workshops. So we are right there talking to the client from the very, very start. So we are part of that brief process as well. So we're taking away what we think the project needs. But it's funny that how we view it and then the account managers view it.
Yeah.
It can be very different, but actually it's really important that the two are working in harmony, because what they take from it and what we take from it can be very different.
Yeah. From a client's point of view then, if they have a specific style in mind, what would you advise from them if they were to kind of be part of this discovery, this briefing process? What's helpful to you as a designer that you can receive from a client? If anyone's listening and they're looking to kick off a design project, what's important from the client side to include in a brief?
Well, first of all, I think client really needs to think about what they're wanting to do with that project. Are they launching a product? Are they wanting to build more awareness of what they are, who they are, what they're trying to, sell? And that could be products, or it could be ideas, it could be whatever. So, but I think when we talk to them, it's really good for them to have really sat down and thought about what they want from it. Yeah. Really good to go and have a look at their competitors, and also to go away and have a look at what they really like, what they think is successful, what brands are working well, and that gives us an idea of where they're looking to sort of progress, what their thoughts are, because it is a collaboration. It's not about us telling people, right, this is what you do. It's about speaking to people and making sure that, when they come to us, they feel like they're getting heard, so, and we take that information and then we hopefully create something that's really fit for purpose, really great.
Okay.
When it comes to the brief, it's always good to sort of get the expectations from the client, like what are they hoping to achieve from this creative campaign.
Okay.
And visually, it's usually good to get sort of a mood board from the client to sort of see what direction they're looking to take the campaign, and it gives us an idea of, like, is it going to work? Can we come up with other ideas that will maybe help the client hit the expectations better than perhaps how they're wanting to approach it?
So if a client has a bit of an idea or a kind of visual style that they like, then maybe some point of reference to kind of show at the start that may kind of help, which might not always be the right answer, but I guess it's quite a good starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good to know where their head is at, definitely. And just being able to understand what, like just as Graeme was saying, what they're wanting to achieve with it, where they're wanting to get to. So yeah, it's definitely important for visuals.
Setting those expectations from the start.
Absolutely.
Sometimes there's a disconnect between what the client wants and what the client might actually need.
Okay, and that's where the skills of a good designer come into play. And is that something that you're faced with quite often? You've maybe presented something that the client's got different ideas about?
Well, our workshops are really where you talk about those types of things. We ask them to come in with what their mood boards are, what their visual references are, and then we talk through that and try and find out what, especially in some aspects, because it might just be like a colour that they like within a layout, but it's very busy. So it's like understanding what is actually important within these design elements that they've chosen to show us. So it's definitely a conversation there, and hopefully by the time you've gone through the workshop, and these can be quite long, you're both on the same page, you're both understanding what is required from the brief and how you're going to approach it. So when you do come to present your ideas, the concepts to the client, you're pretty much there. They pretty much have an idea of what you're going to present, or at least the approach to it, not the actual final designs or anything like that. So we find that the more we talk within the workshops and get to the, that nitty gritty of what they're actually wanting to achieve and what they like and what they don't like, that's also very important, what they don't like. Yeah, we tend to iron out all those sort of potential problems before they arise. So
that discovery part's really important.
Really important.
By the time you get to the end of that, you're almost kind of creating a bit of a brief or a report that says, this is what we discussed, this is kind of what the direction we're going to take this. Does this all sound good? And they almost sign off on that before we get started. So I guess that kind of means we kind of know the direction we're going to go in after a good discovery session.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important that the client feels a big, big part of that, because that's where the buy-in comes in as well. If they feel like they're being heard and being represented, and those conversations can be quite, blunt, and you have to be, maybe have to say things that you don't really want to be, but obviously it's in the way it's still delivered. But it's super important to be really honest in those and put your thoughts across, regardless of how people might not like them.
And I guess along with the brief and the discovery session, we spoke about, when we were discussing brand last week, we spoke about how we would produce a brand guide. So if we were kind of working with a client we hadn't worked with before, then I guess getting your hands on their brand guides is crucial, so that everything can be consistent as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So let's talk about different design styles. Do you have a style that you enjoy more, or do you have a preference, or you specialise in any kind of styles?
I much prefer going down a typographic sort of route when it comes to design.
Okay.
I feel that you can suggest a lot with like careful font choice. So, you can create an idea without explicitly showing it with a font. So you can make something feel old, you can make it feel new.
Do you have a favourite font?
It changes so much.
That's a question.
Why do designers hate Comic Sans?
I'm one of the few designers.
Do not finish that sentence.
I think Comic Sans, when used correctly, is a good font. I think it's because...
I feel like there's a tide turning to this and I'm not on board with it at all.
No, because the issue was, it was on like fire exit signs, which was wrong. But if it was actually in a comic book, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's completely normal.
Okay.
You have got a point there.
Fair point.
It's the context, isn't it?
Yeah, the context is important.
So moving on from fonts, I feel we need to get off the topic.
There's going to be a fight.
Mairi, what about you? Is there any areas of design that you enjoy more than others, or do you have a kind of speciality? Because your background, you had your own publication, didn't you?
I did, yeah. Myself and two of my friends started a magazine for Royal D-Side called D&Do. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I have any particular preference to style. I love photography. I mean, if you've got good imagery, that is half the battle, and it can really make or break a project. So it's really important, if you're going to spend money on anything, make it photography. But I'm a bit like Graeme as well. I love typography. And if I'd known that was actually a job you could do when I was studying, I think I might have gone in that direction.
Right.
Part of my portfolio to get from school was to developed an alphabet, typeface. Alphabet. What am I, 2?
So tell us about that.
Yeah, it just was part of my portfolio. My art teacher had put it to me, do you fancy doing this? And I was like, what? You can do things like that? I didn't even realise that was a thing that you could actually, I thought there were fonts and that was it. No one, I didn't even know where they came from, maybe. Outer space or something. Yeah.
Magical.
But, but
fonts from outer space?
Yeah, no.
Wow.
I mean, there are those types of... Anyway. So part of it, he suggested that for me, and I loved that idea and went away and developed a font based on that.
How do you even get to do that, though? Like, how do you start that process of developing a font? I have no idea. I'm learning so much.
Yeah, just you have an idea of what it was.
Okay.
And then you go through, it's so basic, you go through every single letter and you make sure that letter is...
Oh, wow.
And it's not even about the individual letters. It can be, but it's about how they sit together and making sure that they are complementary to the rest of them. Yeah. I love it. I love just the detail of it, the intricacies.
If you were a font, what font would you be?
Oh, good God.
I think you'd be Comic Sans.
You got fired. I cannot answer that. It depends on the day. It really depends on the day.
Feeling.
Yeah, it's like music. You can't choose a song, can you?
So definitely not Comic Sans.
No.
Going back to that piece you said about having good imagery, I guess that's another point. If it's a design project where we're kind of, I guess, creating a publication or a large document, I guess that's another consideration for a client, isn't it? To have content. Because that, I imagine, holds up a project quite often.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And the amount of times we'll have the request of, can you not just design it? No, there's no content. How can you design without having content?
And we can help with the content. We can help guide the kind of content, but ultimately content first, I guess, on a lot of the projects that we work on in here, whether it's websites, which we're going to come to in a later podcast episode. But I guess having content up front is always very useful.
Yeah, it's absolutely the basis of your starting point for design.
It's
essential.
Like the very first the very first step is like put all this stuff on the page.
You need to understand the content as well, like what is what is on that page, what, the hierarchy of what the content is, making sure. Because the other thing is it's about, giving interest to the reader. If that page is not engaging, you're going to lose that person straight away. And if there's certain messages within that content that you need to stand out, then it's our job to make sure that people aren't missing that.
That's a really important point, because we all have really poor attention spans these days.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I'm so easily distracted. I'll be working on something 1 minute and then the next I'm watching a man cleaning rugs on TikTok.
Cats. Cats doing funny things.
Okay, well, there we go. Look, let's move this on to the next segment of the podcast. And I thought what we could talk about is some of the more kind of technical, behind the scenes side of your job. So what software do you guys use for design?
We use Canva.
The C word is banned.
So we don't use Canva, just to clarify. What is it you guys use?
You're not allowed to use that word in this building.
We use the Adobe Creative Cloud. So it's like Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, After Effects, pretty much everything that Adobe produces.
We've been doing quite a lot more video work as well. So.
Okay.
Like After Effects is quite good at like creating logo animations, type animations.
Okay. So motion graphics kind of things
motion
you would use After Effects on.
It's such a powerful like tool. You can pretty much do anything on it. I think it's like Jurassic Park. Some of the CGI in that was done in
really?
After Effects.
Wow.
Cool. Never knew
My
that.
lecturer told me that, so...
Did you fact check that?
I haven't fact checked
You
it.
might need to fact check.
Get on Google now.
The thing that I would struggle with the most is staying creative all the time, every day. Like, how do you stay creative? Like, what do you do? What's the process? Or is there anything you use as inspiration to just try and keep your creativity high?
I tend to lean on music. If I don't feel creative, I just listen to an album that usually gets a creative juices flowing. For me,
I have to say, you guys always have good tunes
I was
on
thinking
in
very
the design
chilled.
studio.
Well, it depends on the mood, I think. There's some chilled and there's some bit more upbeat, depending on what you're doing. So you can always tell the mood in the studio.
Don't come near them. It's dark music over there.
Anything else? Because I guess you must always be kind of looking at things for inspiration. You guys must never switch off.
No, never. You cannot go anywhere without being like, the kerning on that logo. Oh my God, that poster, why is it using that font? I think it's in the nature. If that is your job, it is inbuilt. You cannot switch off at all. Yeah. But I think it's actually a very interesting question, because imagine a lot of people might assume that if you are in a creative industry, it just comes naturally. But actually, a lot of the time, part of our job is to make sure that we're keeping up to date with the current trends. Yeah. And there's lots of days where I'm just like, oh God, this is difficult. Yeah. This is just difficult. And there's a few websites that I go to that are actually not design sort of led websites. Okay. There's I'd like one called Design, which is architecture, but it's got some design as well. But I really love looking at the architecture aspect of that. So it changes depending on where you are, what you're struggling with as well.
And you've got a really good team upstairs. So I guess, is that a big part of what you do? Just kind of brainstorming over the desk. If you're stuck on a particular project, do you kind of share your thoughts and brainstorm with your colleagues?
Good to have folk to run an idea by, because sometimes you're when you're in the depths of a project, you're not really sure what's working anymore. It's good to get like an outsider.
You're too close.
Yeah, definitely. You get caught in the detail and you just cannot see the big picture. But I think we've had quite a few projects, especially this year, where there's been several of us working on it. That has been really good. It's been it's really great when you do your work and you come back and then you're sitting together in your brainstorming, what works? Oh, that's great. I can see that. And then working with people, they're maybe thinking about it slightly different than you, and then you see something and you think, oh, that would definitely work, and I can see that working, and then you take it away and develop it. So we've had a couple of projects this year that's been really successful with all three of us working together.
Okay.
A good start to the year for projects.
Definitely.
Good bit of collaboration and teamwork.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's move on to the next segment of the podcast, which is our case study corner segment.
Wait a minute. You mean case study corner?
Of course. How did we forget?
We still need to work on a bit of production for that. Last week we took a word each. Shall we try that again?
Yeah.
It's case
study
corner.
There's 4 of us.
Oh, come on, Graeme.
There's 4 of us. How will that work? Right. So, Case Study Corner is a little segment of the podcast where we are going to look at a specific project. We're going to just dig into it a little bit and find out a little bit more. So, can you both kindly move into the corner?
Go.
Good.
Shuffle,
right.
shuffle.
Nice. Look at you two in the corner.
So snug.
So, what project would you like to bring into Case Study Corner?
I feel like that's really hard to
follow.
Yeah. I think that we should talk about Jameson and Carrie, the love story.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Jameson and Carrie Jewelers, massive local business.
Yeah.
So let's start with the brief.
So Jameson and Carrie wanted to develop a campaign that was aimed at a younger audience, specifically to sell more engagement rings.
Okay.
Part of that was to develop a suite of assets that would be rolled out with traditional advertising and digital advertising as well.
Okay.
So, it was a lot of work from the very start. We had to initially come up with a name. So we did a lot of delving into the history of Jameson and Carrie and all that research that you do to sort of get something that's quite fitting. So we landed on Love Story.
Nice.
We just thought it had lots of dimensions to it. You know,
there's an emotional connection there.
Definitely, immediately. And it's talking about, you know, the people that are buying the rings, their love story, but it's also about the story of Jameson and Carrie, you know, you know, being part of that process and, you know, making sure they've got the right, perfect ring, all that types of things. So we knew there was a lot of depth within that, and it was right. So, and from there we came up with a new brand for that.
Talk us through that creative. How did it look?
It needed to look modern, but also obviously because the target audience was a lot younger than what typically the audience would be for Jameson and Carrie. But it also needed to fit within the Jameson and Carrie brand. So it needed to have that nod to tradition, and it needed to be, you know, elegant, sophisticated, all these things that Jameson and Carrie are known for.
Yeah.
So from that brand, we went away and put together a photo shoot, the creative for the photo shoot. So the art direction, how we wanted it, the models that we wanted to use for it. So we used 3. We used a couple, a male and a female, and then another lady as well, just to have that different options within the photography.
Okay.
But also it was a bit different from what we typically do for a photo shoot, because we also were filming on the same day.
Right.
So there were a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
And we used a local venue, the Albine, which is just beautiful.
Yes,
it's
nice.
perfect for it, with lots of different types of environments within that, within the Albine. So it was perfect for it. We could get different vibes, like nighttime looks, you know, lovely, young, fresh looks. So there's a lot of prep running up to that day. We have to make sure we secure the models, hair, stylist, makeup,
that's a lot.
venue. Also, which we've learned through the years, is that the models need to be prepped for it. We've had times where models have come without their nails being done.
Okay.
So,
And of course, if you're showcasing rings.
Exactly. It needs to be perfectly manicured hands, and we've definitely made assumptions that would be the case. The models would turn up, but that has not been the case at times. So it's definitely been a learning process with the different photo shoots that we've done. But from there, we actually captured some really, really beautiful photography and video. It was perfect.
It looks really nice.
Yeah, we couldn't have done it. Honestly, the team that we had were fantastic. We had a lot to get through, but they just worked brilliantly together. No dramas, just like lots of collaboration. And yeah, the end product was beautiful.
Great. And the campaign itself, so it rolled out across various platforms. So there was a digital aspect to the campaign. There was digital ads. Yeah. Was there TV as well? You were filming?
No, all the filming was specifically for digital ads. So they were short form. There was one that was longer, but most of them were sitting at about 30 seconds. So we could use them across various platforms. And then there was a traditional advertising that came off the back of that. They still do an awful lot of traditional advertising in papers. Also, within events, we had to have a hero image, if you like.
Okay.
Before it happened, I thought it would have been a couple shot, like capturing that moment. But actually, it's turned out that the main image for it is actually just a girl looking out a window, but we just captured a beautiful moment, and it is so striking. It's used within the shop. It's used for the advertising outside it, in all the traditional ad spaces and also the digital. So yeah, it couldn't have been better.
Sounds like a great project and a great campaign. Do you have any info on the results and kind of what the campaign achieved? Talk us through that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. We really couldn't have imagined it would be that good. I can't remember the actual details of it, but I think sales went up by 1/3.
Okay.
Engagement was hugely increased. And I should say, alongside that very curated approach to the campaign, there was also organic content that was created with Poppy. Yeah, really important. And that's new to us with Jameson and Carrie. It's only been in the last sort of year or so, or maybe a couple of years, that we've been doing that. And to have those hand in hand is important. So
nice. Okay. Thank you very much for bringing that into Case Study Corner.
Okay, so another important case study is, I've heard a case study about ducks. What is this, Graeme? Tell us more.
So last week I was just going to head out the back door and I couldn't believe my eyes. It was just 2 ducks sitting there staring back at me. And
we're based on Carden Place in Aberdeen. So we're in the city centre pretty much.
Yeah, definitely.
And we have some wildlife.
Yeah, they were just sitting there quite the thing, the 2 of them. And then they hid around behind the bush. It was...
Quite the interrupted them or something.
Have you seen them since?
I saw them when I got back, because I normally go walk at my lunch.
Okay.
So when I came back, they were still sitting there, but they were gone by the end of the day, which was a wee bit sad. I was hoping they would make a nest.
I also have foxes that live in the bush.
Yeah.
That might be why the ducks are there.
Oh no, don't say that. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the foxes will come back looking very plump.
So as well as all the creative work that goes on here, we also have our very own wildlife sanctuary in the gardens at 7 Carden Place. Graeme, there's something else I want to ask you that's not duck related.
Okay.
So a couple of episodes ago, we spoke about the big night out, which was Gillian's Henny.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Now,
remember it.
There was a claim made that one man was the last man standing and he was also the drunkest. Now, we only got the name Graeme. There is 2 Graemes in the business. Can you confirm or deny if it was you?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Brilliant. So that is still a mystery. Look, I think we're pretty much getting to the end of episode 4 of M&G Agency Life. Aimee, do you want to do a bit of a recap of some of the takeaways and insights that we've learned today? Yeah,
I mean, we've learned a lot. So, I mean, firstly, the importance of a good brief. Really good to give you guys something to work with. So you have kind of expectations in mind of what needs to be delivered. Clients coming to us with visual references, kind of ideas or examples of what they like. Photography and content is very important. It makes so much of a difference and so much easier for you guys to work with. Clients coming in prepared for discovery sessions, so they know kind of what they are wanting to achieve and the objections that they have in mind. Provide brand guides. So again, you guys know you're kind of the template and what to do and what not to do with their brand. And also be open-minded, trust the design process, trust you guys, you're the experts, you're the designers, So you guys know best. So to trust that process.
Is that an important point?
Yeah.
We always know best.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Mairi and Graeme, for joining us on this episode. It's been really, really good having you on. Next week, we're going to be looking at websites.
Yeah, look forward to that. Don't forget, if you like what you've been listening to, please hit the follow button on this podcast. And if you'd like to hear more about anything we've covered today, just drop us a line. Aimee, where can we be found?
You can find us on Instagram at Mearns Gill, or check us out on Facebook, LinkedIn, or online. Just search for Mearns and Gill.
Okay, Mairi, Graeme, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
We'll see you next week.